The difference between a bare metal and a VM is that you have to code it up using Chef APIs to stand up a VM. In the case of a bare metal machine, you don't have to do that. So there are ways you can push images, and the IT teams already know about, on a mass scale, how do you push images to the machine. Once you push the images to the machines, then you have the ability to deploy the necessary software using tools like Puppet and Urban Code.
See, Urban Code uses Chef.
Things. Now we see DevOps as a concept or a philosophy. Is this only for the software development or to any other field? Like if I say project management, engineering is for construction, it's for manufacturing, it's for any field. But the DevOps philosophy is only for the software development, or it's applicable to all the fields. You got my question?
I mean, is software
Easy to come up with a car today and then come up with another and incorporate feedback and come up with another car in a week, right? It's practically, there are some practical difficulties about it. But the philosophy, in my opinion, the philosophy can be applied, right? And I think you would have heard about a very small device which can do wonderful things, Raspberry Pi. How many of you heard about that? Right. And it's quite amazing that Raspberry Pi, which is a credit card size with hardware in it, is replacing computers, replacing TVs, for example, right? Which never even thought about. So there are ways. I mean, there are such examples out there that we can think of. It's a mindset. It's an approach, right? Where we apply it, where we get the maximum benefit, it is for us to decide.
And it is all about releasing it faster, making it smaller and releasing it faster, right? So what is this DevOps all new, right? What is this DevOps about when we are practicing Agile, right? So it's basically the Agile doesn't talk about the operational world, it starts with the development, right? Where DevOps is complementing the Agile that's already there in marketplace. It breaks down the barrier between the development team and operation team so that you can release early and release often. Whatever you release using the Agile, it moves to production, it gets the feedback and goes.
Right. And of late we are seeing CIO is talking to the CMO. So the way the software is being developed is primarily driven by the way the company is launching their product, the way they want to, the way the marketing team is giving the input. So this has led to, faster deployment, a need to, deploy as and when marketing team needs, as and when marketing realizes that their customer needs. So the technology team has a challenge, and because of this, Agile and, DevOps has now come into the picture. Agile primarily focused on the developers community. DevOps tries to bridge it. Some even say that DevOps is the do part of Agile. So or some others say that DevOps is like Agile engineering. So the way the engineering needs to be done in Agile project is what DevOps tries to say. So there are there are various definitions. We'll just do a quick round. I heard one question which was asked from this table when I was just doing a round, that we have heard about what is DevOps and why we need DevOps. So that is clear to most of us, but how to do DevOps? How part has not been covered. How many of you agree that how has not been covered? How exactly DevOps can be done? How many of you feel it has not been covered? How part? Great. So it's a sizable, almost 1/3 or maybe half of the audience feel. Can we just focus on how part? How DevOps needs to be covered? So we had one case study from Sita, and we had. So will anybody like to come up with some 10 points? So this is the approach, or 20 points, a general approach, and then of course based on business to business it can change. But do we have a 10 pointers in a roadmap? This is a roadmap to execute it. Is it easy? Can somebody try to just do that before we end this panel discussion? Is it easy to say these are the pointers?
Can I make an anecdotal point?
I think it is sitting in a conference room like this and say, we've spoken about swimming a lot.
how can I swim now? I think it's exactly that. But basically, you have to experience.
So you have to try it.
It's not easy. It's not easy unless you touch and feel. You have to go through that process.
You have to first fail.
You have to fail and find that you fail fast, all of that. Yes.
I think the bigger question is, where do you start searching all over the internet, and you will see like a lot of case studies are there. So now the question is, where to start? So you can start from very basic need that you need. Like you want to automate a simple deployment. You don't want to do a manual deployments, and you want to automate the setup of your server infrastructure. So what you can use, a simple tool that you can use, and then you can start analyzing what are the different and best practices to do that. So DevOps is just what I understand from my perspective, it's just methodology and the practice that you follow. Regarding that, what is this is you cannot say these are the steps you have to follow. For each and everybody, it might differ.
So let me give my perspective of this answer, right? Because when I started this whole exercise of DevOps, and so everybody talks about it, but there is no really guided way of doing it, right? Which is actually the challenge. I don't know how others feel about it, but so we define the steps, right? And obviously, my step may not be same as other steps. My journey is not same as others' journey, right? But actually, we came up with a journey, what it looks like, how do we measure the success and stuff like that. So I think for the benefit of the group, I just kind of raised this question actually.
Okay, so you have to have a way to get quick feedback. Continuous integration is a way, but as long as whatever you identify what are the things that can change. There are only few things that can change in our world at least. Source code, configuration, whatever it is, right? As long as when that changes, how do you get feedback or whether it broke or not? I think that's a great first step. It could be any form, any tool, anything, it doesn't matter. I think that's what you should start doing. Every time I change, can I get feedback? Whether I change it correctly or not.
One more thing that I want to add, so that could be the best way to start with it, writing some small script to automate if we are configuring any server, or if we are deploying, or if we are managing any configurations. So that could be start point we can do it.
Right. Maybe this DevOps start. Even so, the whole process where you think that now we have a 3-year cycle time, let's reduce it to 2 years and 6 months. And then the process that you do around it, maybe automating some part or build or some test build, automating or creating a test environment which helps you in doing it. That is where the DevOps start. The need to deploy faster, quicker, and more reliable.
I'd like to add something. It's like anything else. You need to first define what you want to do, right? So, okay, you want to do some DevOps. What is it that you mean by DevOps? Why do you want to go that route anyway in the first place? Can you justify it just financially? It all depends on the project. Small projects, big projects, projects that are not complicated or distributed. It all depends, right? But once you have defined, let's assume that you all agree on the need for DevOps type of thing. Define your goals, prototype, start with small prototype. Automation is definitely something that is needed, but do not expect that everything will be automated tomorrow. It will take days, weeks, months. It depends really. In our case, for instance, it took months to get where we are today. It depends on the complexity of the system. It depends on how many developers you have, etc. As far as the team, okay, should we have one DevOps team? Yes, we should have specialists. Like I said earlier, you need system architects, you need people who understand deeply, unlike most developers, what middleware is about, especially middleware and operating system. At the same time, the same way, testing is not the sole responsibility of the QC team. DevOps is everybody's responsibility as far as I'm concerned. Our development teams provide the build scripts, deployment scripts, and verification scripts. What our DevOps team per se provides, so that's DevOps right there. And in fact, they use all those scripts, internally on their own platform. They do DevOps. They have DevOps in Bangalore. They have DevOps in Delhi. What they do provide to my DevOps team, my core team DevOps, if you will, is all the scripts And what that DevOps provides is the standard that we expect from the developers to follow. And if something needs to be refined, something needs to be added because it's not the responsibility of the developer, then we do it, or my DevOps team does it. So it's really a global responsibility. We need to be able to, and again, it's not either or. We've got to be careful. It all depends. Someone said that earlier. It all depends. You need to understand your context, what your goals are, or would be, and how long you have. It all depends. Do you have 2 months? Do you have 21 months like me? Probably not. In fact, we had only 3 months because the stage was 3 months long. So we had through the first 3 months to put all this stuff together. Now I can tell you that at the end of the first stage, the first 3 months, we didn't have everything automated. A lot of things were still manual, so it took time. Of course, it didn't take 3 months to deploy, but it took time to, and it was painful. But then we had this continuous improvement process where we would look at each and every sprint and each and every stage what we did or didn't do. It's not just what you did, it's also what you didn't do. And we would improve upon it. So how? Talking about how. Define your goals, prototype, you know what your DevOps organization should be about, and then plan your automation, but plan also to improve upon what you're doing, refactoring and reviewing what you're doing, testing as well. So someone asked, one of the questions was about development, testing and support. It's all together in the end.
Excellent.
Only
Oliver, I think the way you summarized for everyone, because the questions actually came from all of you. It was not pre-decided. Our theme was DevOps, who needs it, why and how. I believe it has been covered. How part we try to address. The idea of a conference is not always to get the right answer, but to raise the right question. And let the companies work on it so that till the time, because for many companies, the delegates are their customers. So if their questions are not answered, that means they're still not convinced. So let the product-based companies, let the consulting companies come up with the answers. Once we get everyone satisfied, we are there in DevOps. Okay, so we have our final presentation. So you can, just turn around the chair and face the screen very hard. Vivek was a part of this session. He was actively involved with the whole day. And his session is on 10 deployments a day. And he will be giving a brief on extreme release protocols. So he has been involved with DevOps days. He comes from Pune and has been very passionate with DevOps. So let's hear what he has. He has a demo or case study, something was there which he will be, presenting. Over to you, Vivek. That form is there in your delegate kit, so do make sure that you, fill the feedback form before you leave. Thank you. Yes, Vivek.
Good evening, guys. Myself, Vivek Parya. I work at WebLab and I am a VP of engineering. So the topic today I'm going to cover is 10 deployments a day, a brief on extreme release protocol. So it's a little bit reflection about how we migrate from an era of deployments once in a week to a 10 deployments in a day on a production environment. I'm not talking about the testing stage because it could be 50 or 60. It can be any number. So it's a little bit of story and with a lot of tools and a combination of story and the tools, including and a lot of case studies, what we learned from our past, and how we convert our mere sysadmins to a sophisticated DevOps team. So at Weaponize, Weaponize is an outsourced product development company, building apps that people love to use, and we are into it's not we are working on one product. We have different stacks, different programming languages. We are working on those languages as well as frameworks. So it's not about general framework. So it could be any framework and any language. So that is the biggest challenge for us. So how to achieve one generalized a DevOps team who can really give a continuous delivery or deployment to our customers. So before moving forward, a little bit about myself. I'm a webnizer and a Ruby. Basically, I'm a Ruby developer, but I love to have JavaScript and all. I love to do coding that way. And you can find my blog post on vparya01.github.com. I'm a geek itself. DevOps, I really love to understand how DevOps community is working and really want to contribute a lot back to the DevOps community as well. I'm an aspiring tech innovator, and you can really connect with me like on my Twitter handle at @vparyar. So, as I already given a summary of my whole presentation that what I'm going to cover in this particular session. So, in 2008, 2009, Webnose I started as a startup. So, and I joined Webnose as around 2009, starting of 2009. So it's very, so I just passed from my college and I just graduated. So, and it's just like era of struggle for each and almost everything. So from application development, how to develop it, what is the best practice, what is the bad, and how to deploy an application, and what are different deployment relevant techniques present in the market, and how to comply with our standards. So we are just struggling each and everything because we have to live up our application. That is our first product that we are working on from different clients. But yeah, we have to make it live. So that is our the big challenge. So what we did battling this successful deployment is one of our challenge, and we learned a lot from there itself. So it's for us very Stone Age if you think about right now. So what we did, we just create an instance. From that time only, we are using public cloud like AWS, Rackspace. Sorry. So we created instance manually and installed all the dependencies regarding what are the things that we have to run our code successfully on that production environment, and pulled the data that code directly from the gate, and then we set up and everything is working fine. So we are happy at that time. But somehow this thing is not working because when we have to release we have to make another release. So we struggled to make that release around 1 month to make that release successful. So we so there are some lessons learned from that particular year, from 2009 to 2010. What we learned that doing every task manually is not on the server, not for each developer is not again. Database migration and rolling back to the application to the previous state is still a very complicated task for us because let's say if something went wrong or the code is not behaving properly in the production environment, so then how we can really roll back? Because once we deployed, we run database migration, so data is already gone. So we didn't think about how we can really restore our database, how we can really restore our server to the previous state. So what we thought, we need to have we can really version our deployments. So what does these versioning means? Before going to the production, before going to anywhere, so we thought that we can divide it different environments. Let's say test, stage, production. So we divide that. So at that time, this is embarrassing, but still I want to share with you guys one deployment in a week or two. We are able to do that, but it's then struggling. We also face a lot of downtime as well, might be 4 to 8 hours of downtime of the application. So 2010 and 2011, what we started versioning our all these environments. We have test environment, stage environment, and production environment. So whenever we want to deploy an application, we just first deploy and test our QA. There's a very small QA team because we are startup. So they give us a feedback, okay, everything's working fine. Then we have to demo to our client because from that point we are using Agile. So we demo to the client on the stage, and when we got the green signal from the client, then we go to the production environment. Also, at that time only we bought a Terraform. It's just a command line console tool based on a Ruby. It can let you deploy from any machine in which you already pulled the code. You say just cap deploy whatever stage you want to deploy, and you can deploy to directly to the public cloud. So it's working pretty much well. And we implemented little bit small plugins so we can get a lot of errors if any errors coming on the production environment. But these are very preliminary errors. We are just catching those errors or the stack trace and mailing to us directly. So it's really very early stage to us. So yeah, so we also get our first message as well. We wanted to deploy and test. Somehow one of our developers just say cap deploy and went to the production environment because we make it a default deployment environment is production. So everything start breaking and we start getting call from the client. What happened? This is not good. We have to do that. Blah blah. A lot of things. So at that time we thought that we have to really revoke the access of the developer not to deploy directly in the production, or we can give a production environment deployment to very limited people. So we thought about it. So these are like lesson learned, like rolling back application code successfully, but database rollback was still ahead. So still like we are not able to roll back to the database, and we have to really find out that way as well. Realize that we need a controlled deployment access as well. So in 2011 and 2012, we just again we moved to the one step ahead because we are growing, organization is growing very fast. So what to do, how to deal with these things. So we introduced a sysadmin. So we thought that it might help us. It might help us to like help our infrastructure keep on running successfully. Also install through like, and then what this sysadmin does. So they have a lot of bash script in place, a lot of shell scripts. So what it's doing, like whatever thing that we're doing manually, a lot of installation, we are doing from the bash script while running on the server directly. So it's working, and we are happy that we somehow we automate these things. We are not repeating again and those tasks again and again. Also, we So one more thing that we introduced is a WebAstronomer. That is a web version of Capistrano, like command line tool that we are using with lot of access rights. So we patched that and also contribute back to the open source community as well. So what it does, for each and every developer, you can give access for each and every environment. Let's say stage, you can have like one particular developer can access that particular stage or deploy it for that particular stage. And a production environment, only like tech lead or team lead or any sysadmin can do that. So it's really working well, and a developer can only by just clicking on a click button and deploy, it's deploying to the app onto the server. In the backend, what we did, we have to really figure out how we can really roll back to our previous state with a database as well. So what we did, we just write a one script inside in WebAstronomer as well. So we can hook a lot of script to this particular tool. So whenever the developer wants to deploy into the production environment, so what we does before any deployment or any migration done to the database, so we first take a backup and make a version out of it and store to the server itself. If the deployment is successful, then it's okay. And if deployment is not successful, then our code can roll back to the previous state with that particular database, with that particular version. So it's working well, and we are happy to deal with that because it's really solving a lot of problems. But still, like sysadmin is the sloppy process. Why? Just don't want to hurt sysadmin, but why it's not working for us? Because we are working on more towards the agile, and we want a like continuous delivery and fast delivery out of it. But whenever we have like our developers handle the code or the like for our build to a sysadmin, then there are a lot of queries. So what are dependencies that I have to install? No machines available, and it's not running on my machine. And what about security? What database? Do we have to have like high availability? Do we have to like have this particular application scalable? So this is what we are having a lot of problems. So we thought that sysadmin is not working. We have to really find some other way. In the end of the year, we already knew that sysadmin is not going to work. So 2011 DevOps Bangkok, we attended and we saw that webinar. Though a lot of people is walking around there and they're talking about DevOps. So I think everybody heard about Martin Fowler. So we talked to him and we just do a conferencing how we can really implement DevOps to our organization. So he suggests a lot of good things. So he told us that we are doing a lot of things good, but we have to really increase and make this thing happen in an agile way. First thing that he told us, try to give a training to a sysadmin about the coding, how you can code in Ruby, Python, in different languages. So it really helped. So what we did, we start training our sysadmin for different programming languages. So these are the numbers for the end of the end of the year, like 2 deployments in a week, but it's not enough. So these deployments are production deployments. So 2000 onwards, so we bring little bit sophistication. So we understand, sysadmin is not going to work for us. So what to do? So if we see we have an ops team that is sitting on behind on the wall, and there is a DevOps. And DevOps team is dev team is keep pushing a lot of data to the ops team, and then ops team keep pushing a lot of data to the dev team, asking what to do with this build, what are dependencies, what are the configurations that we have to maintain. So we know that's why sysadmin doesn't work for us. So what we did, we thought that we can really break this particular wall of confusion between the dev and the ops. Let's combine it and train our ops team to become a little bit developer and really get a developer out of it, because they know the programming language. Just we have to give them a training. Mere 1 month of training, they are very good developer, and they are really integrating a lot of automation script, writing automation in place itself. So now the numbers what have we got it a growing company witnessed proportional infra growth, 15 live server instances, 45 live applications, and 7 deployments a week. That we till now we achieved that. Now, so there are a lot of lot of challenges still present in DevOps team. As the company is growing, the complicated application that we are working on is still there. So clients keep asking, what about the security? What are the compliances? And what are my database backups? So how we are going to deal with that? And I really don't want anybody can access my server. I don't want anybody can access my servers. So these are the challenges that DevOps team has to work on it. So, and second, one of the biggest challenges is keep our infrastructure running, up and running. So yeah, so what we did, so we try to have we try to evaluate a lot of monitoring tools available in open source. So we found that Nagios is very well defined and very well popular in open source community. So we integrate Nagios to each and every servers, and it keeps monitoring about the health of the server, the health of the application, the health of the the usage of the server, and it also gives a load of the server. So it's working fine, and we know that if server is not is on high load or low load, so we can really figure out what to do with that. Also, we keep giving back a lot of performance metrics to our client as well. So how the application is performing on the production and how the well your application is performing. So we are giving. For that we are using Cacti. That is also one of the open source tools. So we combined it for the monitoring we use Nagios, and for performance we are using Cacti. Now, so now the next question is about the security. So the security is one of the major concerns from our clients. So they don't want anybody can access their server directly. So very limited people can access the servers and have the right to log in and see the logs, what is happening there. So what we did, so we introduced the LDAP. But still there is a catch in that. LDAP, we need to have user and password. So we don't want to give away the user and password, because again, we are breaking the rules, our client compliances. So what we thought, combine SSH public key with LDAP, and we can really have that particular SSH-based authentication to each and every server. Then we have one of our centralized server that has been that has LDAP server, and then on each and every client we install LDAP client, and if somebody wants to log in, if that person is authorized, then only can access that server, else they are not authorized to access the server. Even the deployment is also happening through a centralized server only. So nobody can directly access the server. So we just put a firewall out of it. For the security, what we did, we combined UFW uncomplicated firewall, and that's not for IDS and IPS, because it's very important. So in 2012, end of 2012, we got one pharma attack. I think a lot of people know about it. It's a spam, a lot of spam that has been run on PHP sites, and a lot of time these Joomla and WordPress sites get hit by that. So then we know that we have to really somehow firewall on it, and somehow we have to protect with our IDS and IPS should be there in our infrastructure. So for that we use NOT with UFW. So now the problem is the infrastructure is increasing and the application is increasing, and we have to provide service to our client as well. So let's say if today we got a request from a client, I am going to get a huge traffic on my server. Please do something about it. So then attaching to the new instance behind the load balancer, it's a little bit a quite complicated task. Why? Because it might take 4 to 5 hours to reconfigure a particular instance and reconfigure the whole configuration and maintain those all configurations. So what we thought, we can really bring a Puppet in. And so what Puppet can do, it can really have these different